I knew this movie wasn't going to end up because that was an action movie that ended up in a drama. Steve Kerr talked about it, that they weren't the same team after that unfortunate incident. Obviously, they got ceremoniously dismissed from the playoffs. But and if they're trying to re-sign Draymond Green, this is a decision that they made, that Draymond Green is a priority more than Jordan Poole. And then the other thing, Amanda, in this situation is, remember, Jordan Poole has a long contract. Chris Paul has 1 year left on his contract. You can release him for an even smaller number. So if they're planning on trying to have some more cap flexibility or flexibility to re-sign guys like a Klay Thompson or Draymond Green, they can utilize the byproduct or the benefits of trading Jordan Poole. So this gives them flexibility. And the last thing I'll add is, this is why you can't believe a general manager, especially one that's recently hired, because Mike Dunleavy Jr. said, hey, we love Jordan Poole. We love him. We want him to be a part of the future. A week later, he's now a Washington Wizard.
All right. Don't believe a general manager, but we do believe you, Avery. I mean, you talked about business-wise. This does make a lot of sense for the Warriors. Look, when we saw Chris Paul, I mean, we watched him there in Phoenix and getting so close to an NBA title, something that he's never been able to achieve before. And everybody would like to see this for Chris Paul. How does he now fit in with the Warriors and potentially what they could look like next season?
I believe we have to wait and see if Chris Paul is going to be on the opening day of this roster, and come playoff time next year, if they're a playoff team, if he's going to be at the roster at that point. This gives the Warriors a lot of flexibility. Do you want to keep Chris Paul? Do you want to waive him and have to pay him a smaller number and have some more flexibility? Do you want to hold on to him and maybe around trade deadline move him and see if you can get a younger piece that fits better with your team? So I think this gives the Warriors a lot of flexibility. And at this point, we just don't know. The draft is tonight. Are they going to include him and move him on for another piece as a part of tonight's draft? They just have a lot of flexibility, but we do know this. Jordan Poole and Draymond Green were not going to be able to survive on the same team.
And you mentioned that it does look like they will be at least looking to keep Draymond Green there, sending Jordan Poole ahead to the Wizards. Look, when Chris Paul went to the Wizards, everybody anticipated moving on from that. So Jordan Poole, you see him sticking there, and how do you see him fitting in?
Yeah, and I think this is a part of the Wizards' new rebuild. They've rebuilt their front office. Now, they've moved Bradley Beal. So this gives them a young player that's, been a part of a championship team. He's been a part of a team where he knows what a good culture looks like, and they'll give them an opportunity to build around him. He's definitely not a 1A player on a team. If he's maybe your third best player, then you have an opportunity to win and become a playoff team. But this is part of a rebuild. The Wizards aren't going anywhere. They've traded Porzingis. Beal is out. So this is the start of their version of the old Philadelphia's process. They're in the process of rebuilding.
The next step in this, we had Draymond Green decline that player option in order to become a free agent. So now that this is done, do you think that's the next move, keeping him there in the Bay Area?
Yeah, I would be a little surprised if Draymond signed with another team. I think this is a way for him to get a multi-year contract and give them a chance to compete for a championship next year and allow him to be the best version of himself. He couldn't be the type of leader, especially after that unfortunate incident with Jordan Poole in training camp, because he lost a little bit of respect. Maybe there was a little bit of trust broken. He couldn't really be that type of player's coach towards Jordan Poole because there was a breakdown in their relationship. But now Draymond Green, if they're able to re-sign him to a multi-year deal, he can get back to being his normal self, especially in terms of leadership and credibility with everybody on the roster.
Of course, we still have Dame floating out there and potentially talking to Draymond Green about that move. Really quickly, when we were talking about the Celtics and Memphis and the Wizards were involved in that, you really like the move for both of those teams. With this trade going down today, maybe give me a grade for the Warriors and the Wizards in this.
Well, for the Warriors, I give them an A. This is absolutely the smart move, especially when you got a guy that you just re-signed that flamed out in the playoffs, and you just don't know how much better he's going to be. And you get a chance to bring in a veteran guy where one, as much respect as they have for Chris Paul, it's all about that contract. It's a shorter 1-year contract, gives them a lot more flexibility. So I give them an A. For the Wizards, I'll give them a C plus. We'll see, how much better Jordan Poole. Is he going to be an all-star? We don't know. Is he going to play like he played in spurts and shot the ball extremely well in the NBA Finals when they won the championship? Or is he going to be the guy that didn't show up in his last playoff series and struggled, and they didn't even feel confident inserting him into the game? So I'll give them a C plus. Maybe we'll upgrade it to a B plus if he goes to the Wizards and play at a high level.
Time will tell. Avery Johnson, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for weighing in this move happening today, the latest trade in the NBA. Chris Paul, after a brief stop with the Wizards, now finding himself a new home with the Golden State Warriors there. The Warriors sending the Wizards Jordan Poole, Ryan Rollins, a 2027 second-round pick and a protected 2030 first-round pick. And odds to win the NBA title right now, Nuggets sitting at the top to repeat. You see the Warriors there, 13-1 odds, so a little bit longer. But as Avery mentioned, they're still trying to figure out what is going to happen with Draymond Green there, and then potentially how Chris Paul will fit into this roster come next season.
State Warriors, and that has been confirmed by our Bill Ryder. In return for CP3, the Wizards will receive Jordan Poole, Ryan Rollins, a protected first-round pick in 2030, and a second-round pick in 2027. Now, that news comes just 4 days after Chris Paul was traded from Phoenix to Washington in exchange for Bradley Beal. CP3 will now play for his fourth team in the past 6 seasons. And getting a look at those reported trade details, Golden State receiving, of course, Chris Paul. The Wizards getting Jordan Poole, Ryan Rollins, a 2027 second-round pick, and a protected 2030 first-round pick. And we have Bill Ryder with us here to discuss this breaking news out of the NBA. And Bill, when the Suns released Chris Paul, we were all trying to predict where was he going to end up. And I believe Avery had said maybe LA, he's going to head out west. Well, we got the right state, just obviously a different party heading to Golden State. So you were surprised by this move. Tell us why.
It is surprising, and it's impressive. You're right. When Phoenix traded Chris Paul to Washington, we knew the Wizards were going to obviously move on from Chris Paul. They're tearing that thing down. They're rebuilding. That is their current plan under a new front office. I should have seen the Warriors coming, but it is such a shocker. And the reason I think this happened, Jacqueline, I think the thing a lot of us miss, and I hadn't heard anything about this, is because Golden State, for a couple of reasons, really wanted to move on from Jordan Poole. They don't feel like that contract, $140 million over several years, is one that he's going to live up to. And obviously he had the situation where Draymond Green punched him in the face at the start of last year in the preseason, and it really soured the locker room. Sources told us that, and we discussed it here on HQ. And almost all the Warriors and their coaching staff discussed it after they got knocked out of the playoffs. So it made sense they were going to try to find a buyer for Jordan Poole. The fact that it's the Wizards who acquired Chris Paul, and now you've got this, I know he's near 40, but future Hall of Fame point guard who I think is a perfect fit, at least on